If you're on a local TV station, you're maybe, if you're lucky, going to get a 3.5 minute segment. And 9 times out of 10, they're probably not even going to put it on the website. So if no one's watching those 2 times that it runs, they're not going to see it. But a podcast is going to live there forever. And you get 30 to 45 minutes in someone's ears while they're going about life. And I don't know the science behind it, but it makes a lot of sense that, their mirror neurons, you're going to be in there. And so the next time they're washing dishes, they're going to think, oh yeah, I need to reach out to that Melinda girl. Or they're on a walk and next time they go, Melinda, it's really like tricking your brain a little bit.
Step into the world of success with Your Brand Amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Melinda Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success.
I have truly just met a new sister. Not only do we have the same last name, but I came from the world of PR, and Melinda Jackson, you were just sharing some really interesting stories with me about your journey in PR. But I would love to take it back because you live in North Carolina and you grew up as a small town girl with big dreams. So let's go to that story first and share what that journey looked like for you to decide what you wanted to do and move out to LA before you went on your current journey.
Yeah. So like you said, I grew up in a very small town in North Carolina. We're right on the edge of Eastern North Carolina, so we can't claim that, but it's spitting distance. It's right there. So my town's like 4,000 people. My parents are entrepreneurs. My family has lived there generations and generations, like literally since like the 1700s, 1600s, like forever. And I always say I'm the only person that ever moved away, and it's true. Like we can literally track it. So my dad comes from a very long line of tobacco farmers. So grew up on my grandpa's 200-acre tobacco farm. My dad worked in finance. My mom owned 20 tax offices, and they had a lot of side hustles and things they were investing in, always property, because my family always says, you can't build more land. So anytime they would make money, they would invest it in land. And it was just all of this stuff. So they own a lot of things. And so my brother and I are 2 years apart. And when we were in college, my parents decided that they wanted to make a business for my brother and I that we could have and go into. And I originally wanted to go to film school, and they said, girls don't do that. We don't know anybody that does that, even though they film a lot of things in North Carolina. At the time, they were filming Dawson's Creek, then One Tree Hill. They filmed all the movies here, all kinds of things. And my parents said, we don't know anybody that does that. You're just going to work for us. Just go to college and maybe you can be a teacher. And I was like, okay, whatever. I didn't know that I could like choose my own major. I didn't know that I could go against my parents because they were paying for my school. So I go in as a history major with a teaching certificate. And I was a cheerleader at my college. And I realized that a lot of the cheerleaders were communications majors. And one of them got to go to LA every summer for internships. And I was like, oh, this is the closest thing I can get to film, and I can go to LA, I can go to California. And this was like 2005. So you have to think Laguna Beach was on that show, the OC. So all these California shows, I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. So I changed my major halfway through first semester, freshman year. And yeah, just put it in my mind, I'm going to move to LA after college. I'm going to work in PR because I'd figured out what PR was from TV, literally from TV. And I'm like, that's what I would be good at. I can handle this. Solving problems for people, talking a lot in a cell phone, sending emails. I can do this. So it comes time for my brother to graduate college, and my parents open up a restaurant for me and my brother, and it's a franchise. And I work there with my brother, but the whole time I'm saying, I don't want to work here forever. I'm moving to LA for college. And they're like, no, you're not. No, you're not. We have to open 3 in 3 years. Like that was what we signed. Like you're going to work with your brother. And I was like, I'll work with my brother now, but that's not forever. So my parents said, if you move, we're cutting you off completely. This life that I'd always known, granted, I always had to work, but they provided. And so I was like, okay, bye. And so the day after Christmas in 2009, I graduated. Had to stay extra because I changed classes and failed classes and everything. So I graduated December. I moved to LA with a car full of just crap and $500 and no job the day after Christmas in 2009. I just packed up my car and drove across the country. And my dad handed me $100 bill like in the window and said, "Don't tell your mom." And I made it work.
Wow. It's so refreshing to hear your story. I grew up in Kansas. My parents, I had big dreams. Even just getting out to go to another state and go to business school, my parents, they're like, well, you can't have a car unless you stay here for college. My dad taught at the community college and I could get free tuition. So it was this whole thing. And when your parents stomp on your dreams like that, it's really hard. And I try to follow and do the right thing. But eventually, like you, I had to break out. I didn't even finish college at that point because I was so disheartened. Even though I was student senate president, I had a theater stipend. I did things where I didn't really need them, that tuition reimbursement. But then I just kind of got into that cycle, and I usually don't share, I think, this much, but I just resonate with your story so much. I ended up moving to Chicago, same thing. Drove my car up there, didn't have any money, lived on my boss's couch, moved up there to be a club promoter and work for a marketing agency because I knew if I didn't get out of Kansas, I would just always be like really dependent on my family, not feel like I could achieve the things I wanted to achieve. So kudos to you for taking that leap and just getting out here. So where did you live? What happened? Did you have an internship or a job set up or?
Yeah. So I went on 2 planning trips. One was that summer before, and then one was probably a couple of months before. I think maybe I went like fall break or something, but I went out there and I was applying for every job possible. And you have to also remember, we're still in the recession at that time. Like all of my friends that graduated the year before me, they just immediately went to grad school because they're like, there's not going to be any jobs. I mean, that was 2008. Same thing with everybody I graduated with in 2009. They either stayed around and like got a job at the college, or they went for their MBA or something. So I went out there and I was just applying for jobs, got a couple of interviews. Nothing was happening. No one wanted me, this random girl from North Carolina, from this like private Baptist university they had never heard of, when I'm up against girls from USC and UCLA whose dads were like VPs at Universal or Warner Brothers or whatever. They didn't need me. They needed those girls. So that was really hard. But yeah, I met literally someone on Tumblr that said they needed a roommate because I had posted like, I don't have anywhere to live. I'm trying to figure things out, whatever. And I ended up meeting her on my trip in October. So we had met online, then I like met and hung out with her. And I think I actually ended up staying at the apartment. And she's like, she had this 2-bedroom apartment. She's like, we can share this room. And I'm right out of college. I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, okay, great. I have no money. So I thought I was helping her pay half the rent. So I get all the way out there. I'm paying her $500. I'm sleeping on the floor for 4 months until my parents come and visit. And they're like, you can't sleep on the floor. Like they bought me a bed. That was all they would do. But I couldn't get a job at the beginning. So I did the best thing I knew how. And that was just network as much as I could. So I got offered 3 different internships and I took every single one of them. So I did 3 internships at once that were all unpaid. I found a cheerleading coaching job in the Valley at a high school that was like an after school, like outside sports program. And so I coached cheerleading for probably $10 an hour. And then just like did a million different part-time jobs. Like I truly don't know how I made it work, but it took me a year and a half to get hired on somewhere full-time. And that was really just from me networking and hustling and applying and just doing everything that I could.
Yeah. What you did is the reality of moving to LA. If you don't have the connections, you're not from Hollywood or one of the other, suburb, Palisades, whatever, and you don't have those connections, it takes time and hustle. And I mean, even people who grew up here, I've seen them hustle the whole time I've lived here. So that grit and determination showed your parents that you were determined and, you're proving something to yourself, but also to your family of, I am going to pursue my dream and I'm going to do everything it takes. And then you got there.
Yeah. And I was thinking about it the other day. I told my parents, just give me a year. Give me a year in LA. They came out after I'd been there for 3 or 4 months. I think they were like, nah, it's probably not going to last that long. But I just kept making it work and kept making it work. And then I ended up staying for 7 years. So for me, it was really just, I have to prove everybody wrong. And that blind confidence in myself that I just have to get there and I will figure it out.
Yeah. So tell us what that trajectory looked like, because we were talking a little bit about some of the horror stories we both had when we've worked for different organizations. And I know you have a successful firm of your own now. Talk about going from that mindset shift and going from being an employee, getting your foot in the door, working up the ranks, and then what perpetuated that move.
Yeah. So I finally got hired on somewhere after a year and a half, and I worked there for a couple of years, I think like 4 or 5 years. And it was a tiny agency. My boss had been in PR for decades. She was a very renowned music publicist. And so I got to do a lot of really fun stuff. But I think I also got on as it's a sinking ship. And so after I was there for a while, I was getting offers from big record labels to please apply for this job. Like, we know you, we know of your work. Like, please apply for this job. We would love to have you as like a assistant PR person or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm loyal, because my parents would tell me, don't ask for a raise. They'll give you a raise if they think you work hard enough, and stay loyal to who you work for. My dad worked for the same company his entire career, but it was in finance. It's different. Like, he has those like, oh, you gave this many loans and you got this many repaid. Okay, you get a bonus. Like, they had that kind of thing in place. You don't have that in PR. So I stayed way too long at a sinking ship, and bless her Lord, she's wonderful, but it was not a good situation. And I finally had the courage to apply somewhere else. And it was my dream agency. And it was like a 6-month interview process. And I finally got the job. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, it's all happening. It's all going to work out. And at this point, I am completely burned out mentally, physically. Like, I am in such a bad space. And I get hired on, and it was probably the worst few months of my life ever. Like, to this day, I could say that it was a very toxic environment, and the agency was amazing. Everyone else was amazing. It was the department. It was the person I was working with. And I was going to HR every single day, crying, like making complaints. And they were like, we know that she is doing this. Just give us some time. We're going to figure something out. And August 1st comes, and HR calls me in at like 2:00 that day. And they're like, she wants you gone. And I was like, I want to be gone. And they're like, yeah, we know. So they were so kind. They were like, look, give us like 2 or 3 months. We are going to put you on our freelancers list. So we will find some work for you in other departments, but then we want to put you in a different department. And I was like, okay, I guess, like, wonderful. And she was like, I'm going to keep you on, since it's August 1st, I'm going to keep you on the insurance until you find something else in a month or so. And then just please keep in touch. Like, check in with me every week. We're going to figure this out for you. Like, HR was amazing. That lady, I don't even remember her name at this point, was a godsend. But I was finally just like, screw it, I'm moving back to North Carolina. Like, I can't do this. My grandma had just died. My second nephew had just been born. And I was the only person in LA. And as you know, the statistics for LA, it's very transient. Like, people do not last longer than a year and a half there. And I had been there for 7. So my friend groups were changing all the time. And I was so alone. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. What am I trying to force to happen? I've been here for 7 years. I've proved everybody wrong. I'm moving back to North Carolina. So I literally, again, packed up everything. I took a month to just sell off everything I could. I freelanced for my old agency. I freelanced for other people. I was doing interviews. And by Labor Day, I was on my way back to North Carolina. So I'm almost at my 9-year anniversary in North Carolina.
You know, as a business owner myself, I can tell you that finding the right people to hire is absolutely brutal. You post a job, get flooded with hundreds of resumes, but somehow still can't find anyone with the actual skills you need. It's like searching for a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter finds amazing candidates for you fast. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/work. Here's what makes ZipRecruiter different. Their smart technology actually identifies the top talent for your specific roles super quickly. The moment you post your job, their matching system starts showing you qualified candidates immediately. Plus, you can reach out to your favorite candidates right away using their pre-written invite to apply messages. No more waiting around, hoping someone will notice your post. Ditch the other hiring sites and let ZipRecruiter find what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/work. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/work. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations. And did you move back to
your hometown? Did you move
Yeah.
somewhere else?
So I currently live in Raleigh, and that's about 45 minutes from my hometown. So I stayed at my parents' house for 2 weeks. I had gotten the second day I was here, I had an in-person interview after a phone interview at an advertising agency, and I got hired so very quickly. And so I was like, okay, me and my mom, like, I am not staying in your house anymore. I'm like almost 30. We're going to find me an apartment. I'm going to make this happen. And so got an apartment, moved into the apartment the day I started my new job. And so I was only at my parents' house for, I think, 9 or 10 days.
Fantastic. And what was that like going to an ad agency from being in the Hollywood glitz PR world?
The worst. And so, you think in LA, you have your normal client work, but then you also have all the events and all the red carpets. And the agency that I was at the longest, we also would act as the LA arm for a lot of agencies in New York that maybe didn't have an LA office. So I'm getting their clients too, and I'm taking them out to things. So it was changing all the time. I also had people I freelance for. So then going to an advertising agency that was ran by older men who had their heyday in New York advertising, but are back in Raleigh now, but think they know everything, but are 5 to 10 years behind. It was very, very hard. And again, I was there for 2 years. I got kidney stones. I had to get surgery. My body shut down. I was in a place mentally where I was having suicidal ideations because I could not get my body out of fight or flight being in a toxic environment. And especially being a publicist at an advertising agency, for people that maybe don't know, that's unheard of. Advertising agency doesn't have a PR arm, and at least in the way that they had it set up. And so if I had a press release, I had to have 5 signatures on it before it left. So that means the graphic design team had to proofread and approve my press release, which they have no idea what that means. It's one thing if I am proofing their work. It's another thing if they are proofing mine. And so it was just consistently drama. And the day that I quit, I went and told the bosses, like, I'm just going to work for myself. I already had some freelance clients at that time. I had found 2 that ended up paying my rent. And they were by accident. They were just referrals. They weren't enough money for the agency to take on, basically. And the agency knew I was doing freelance work. They didn't care. But when I quit, one of my bosses pulled me in and he said, I don't think you should quit. I made a list of everything that you do wrong, and I think we can work on it. Because nobody's ever going to hire you. Nobody's ever going to work with you. Well, 7 years later, here I am, and I've consistently had more clients than they have. So there we are.
So there we go. Yep. What was it like making that transition from working for other people to going out? I mean, obviously you've come from a family of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So you had that genetic makeup and that build and all the great examples around you. But I know there's also, it can be rocky when you start and you go out on your own because we don't know what we don't know, all the different things we have to deal with as business owners versus working for other people.
Yeah, I think so. A couple of things. When I was first interviewing for jobs in LA, they would ask, where do you see yourself in 10 years? I don't think they ask that anymore, but they would. And I would always say, well, I'll just own my own company. My parents own theirs, and I think I did the math the other day. I always say it was exactly 10 years, but I think it ended up being like 9 years. So exactly like 9 years to the day, I quit that job and started my own company. But I had, again, that blind faith in myself, like I had when I moved to LA. I can do this. I had that bridge of, okay, I have 2 clients right now that at least cover my rent and my bills. I will be fine. I will figure it out. If I can sleep on a floor in LA, I can handle this. And then, yeah, I think the hardest part for me was really realizing I don't have to sit at my desk 9 to 6 every day. I can go live my life. And funny enough, my dad is the one that told me that. And my dad is very, very business minded. He is, again, finance guy. He is very straight laced. He is strictly business. And he was like, Melinda, your 50% is most people's 100. So even if you send a couple of emails, it's okay. You can go to the grocery store. You have email on your phone. You can still get stuff done. Do not beat yourself up over it. And I have to repeat that to myself every single day.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. And what about everything else? Getting new clients? Because you had referrals, obviously, and that's fantastic. That's how my business was built up too. That's why I accidentally ended up starting my own agency. Kept getting referral after referral, but knowing how to price yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And accurately market, scope
Yeah.
creep. Like
it's
all
hard.
of these different things.
Yeah. I mean, I always say I accidentally started my company because I think in my brain, I thought I'll just do this a little bit until I get hired on somewhere else. And I was like, wait, I don't want to work for anybody else. I can do whatever I want. I don't have to wake up really early. If I want to go to the gym, I can go in the middle of the day. But for me, I'm very lucky. Well, one, it kind of bites me in the ass. I never built like a structure for my business. 7 years later, I'm still floating along, but I'm very lucky. I would say 90% of my clients are referrals that someone referred me or they heard me on a podcast or they met me at an event. And I have clients all over the world. I don't even have any clients in North Carolina. I have, no clients in North Carolina. I have clients all over the country, all over the world, and they just find me. And a lot of times it's because they have been burned by a larger agency and they just want somebody that's small and scrappy, that is not as expensive and can just give them some visibility.
Yeah. So let's talk about visibility today, because obviously, I mean, you and I were there in the days when we had to fax press releases.
Yep.
And then call to make sure that they got them. And that quickly evolved into, now we have email and we can do things via websites and over the wire, to AI. And there's a lot more pay to play. Podcasting obviously has blown up as a way to get out in the media, because other things we don't know, are they going to still be in business? Are they shuttering? Do they actually have journalists? So can you talk a little bit about how that's changed for you and for how you can position your clients effectively?
Yeah, it's hard, especially after COVID. I think I'll get new clients come in and they're like, okay, who do you have relationships with? And I don't have relationships with anyone anymore because nobody I used to have a good relationship with works at any outlet anymore. They've went to PR or they went to like something completely different. So we're seeing the media industry just completely transform. There's no point in me trying to get anybody on radio anymore. My boyfriend just kind of retired from radio after 22 years. And I'm like, yeah, I have no use in emailing your radio station anymore. Like, no one listens. Sorry. But yeah, I'm finding that obviously podcasts are now the way to go. And that's what a lot of my clients just want at the end of the day, because podcasts are going to give you so much SEO. Just one episode, your name is going to be in the title. Your name is going to be in the transcript. Your name is going to be in the description. Your name is going to be on the photo. And then it gets distributed to all the different platforms. And so there's so much more reach than maybe even just like a local news segment. I do a presentation talking about the importance of getting on podcasts. And one example that I use is that if you're on a local TV station, you're maybe, if you're lucky, going to get a 3.5-minute segment. And 9 times out of 10, they're probably not even going to put it on the website. So if no one's watching those 2 times that it runs, they're not going to see it. But a podcast is going to live there forever. And you get 30 to 45 minutes in someone's ears while they're going about life. And I don't know the science behind it, but it makes a lot of sense that, their mirror neurons, you're going to be in there. And so the next time they're washing dishes, they're going to think, oh yeah, I need to reach out to that Melinda girl. Or they're on a walk and next time they go, Melinda, it's really like tricking your brain a little bit.
Yeah. Obviously you're preaching to the choir.
Hey, I will send you my presentation. Steal it. Just steal it.
No, I do presentations talking about extending your brand or how to make best use. And obviously now I'm doing some podcast production along with my own podcasts, because it really has changed the face. And, I want to ask about the company that I have been doing work for that I just left. We would do press releases, but more for the SEO, more for putting out, getting some links, even if they weren't like the top link, right? Every once in a while, the press release would get quoted in an actual article that they were doing with one of our athletes, which was really cool. But it was very difficult to get placements. And so that's when we said, okay, let's start a podcast for the founder. Let's think about what book he can write. Let's think about other engagement techniques. But I also see that a lot of times now, if you want visibility in publications, you do have to pay to be inserted into an article. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm very anti-pay to play, and I realize why they're doing it now. They're doing it because they're not getting the advertising dollars. But for me, I'm not an advertising. I am earned media. You're going to pay me your retainer, and I'm going to get you as much as I can with that money. you're paying me for my hours and my hard work and my knowledge. You're not paying me to spend your money to, get you extra stuff. And I feel like a lot of the times people can sniff out a pay to play. You can look and tell a lot of the times if it was a pay to play mention because it looks like an advertorial or whatever. I think you can just get a lot more for your money if you just have a publicist that is solely focused on earned media. But you do have to be creative. I don't write press releases for my clients unless they absolutely need it. So I have biotech clients you definitely need a press release for just because of the nature of the business. But my other clients, they don't need a press release. I can just write a who, what, when, where, why pitch and send it out and try to get some of those organic mentions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's so smart. And what kind of publications are your clients wanting to be in anyway? If it's not, and a podcast as well, are they wanting to be on more general? Are they wanting to be very niche down?
It depends. So with my clients, I always try to do 2 to 3 angles a month. And so we'll have like a super general pitch that'll be more of the thought leadership that could go in any of the typical business publications, Forbes or anything like that, which people think you can just get in Forbes just by emailing. It's very hard. It's a process. Like, do not go to your publicist and expect them to get you in Forbes tomorrow. It's not going to happen. So we have the general pitch, but then we also have like very genre specific pitches as well. So I try to do a little bit of both because if one's not working, hopefully the other one is.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. And when somebody is brand new to PR, they're not sure if they're ready. What are some of the things you look for to make sure that they are ready, that they're set up? Because I know when I was living in the world of PR, I had a lot of clients who would come and say, I'm ready. I have a website. I have social media, but they didn't actually know who they were as a brand. As founders, even they couldn't talk succinctly about what they're offering. So just wondering what your process is to vet clients. And then also for those small businesses, what do they need to do to set themselves up to be ready for PR?
Yeah, like this is bad, but I always turn people away because they're not ready. And so for those people, I always just try to get on a consulting call because everybody thinks they need PR. Somebody said I needed a publicist. I need a publicist. You probably don't. But a lot of the times when someone doesn't need it, it's because their social media is all over the place. The messaging is all over the place. Their brand is just confusing and they don't even know who their audience is. Your audience is never going to be everyone. You can distill it down to 1 or 2 attributes that make it different than just everyone. Maybe it's females. Maybe it's females in a certain age demographic. Maybe it's a certain income. You have to really hone in on who your audience is. So then you can figure out, okay, what media are they consuming? Then we can go after that media. Okay, well, what is that media covering? And what angle do I have that would work for that media? Because just because your audience is consuming a certain media doesn't mean you're relevant to that publication. So those are things I try to advise people on. And I always will give them some tips like, hey, here's some ways to get the PR ball rolling yourself until you're ready for me. And then also the number one thing is people just don't have a budget. Like, I don't know how they think I get paid, but they just won't have money. And I'm like, I can't help you. Like, I wish I could do this for free, but I can't. So here's a couple of tips. And then when you actually have a budget and your brand is in alignment, call me back. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I think right now I'm having not even a midlife crisis. I'm 38. So whatever that means. It's just a crisis. Like I kind of said, I've realized that I started my business accidentally. I didn't have a lot of the framework in place. And kind of this week I realized I'm only going to be able to make so much money if I'm doing this all myself. And I'm a control freak. And so I have freelancers that I'll pull and interns and everything, but I don't have any full-time employees because the thought of being in charge of someone's livelihood is very overwhelming to me. But I'm realizing maybe I need to really take that leap because I can only grow my business so much by myself. So I'm going to figure that out, but also am going to look into some different side hustles that I can do. I'm very interested in property like my parents and am trying to figure out with my dad, okay, is there a property I could buy to make it an Airbnb or even a long-term rental just so I can have that ball rolling and have that, first-time home buyer loan and all that fun stuff to parlay it into other things. But I want to try to diversify my income. And then I think at the end of the day, I would love to get to a place where I'm really just consulting and, making those consulting dollars and maybe not having to personally pitch everybody all day, every day. That would be great.
Yeah, fantastic. This has been really fun. And I know this is only part of your journey, but I want to know, where do you want people to go to find out more about working with you?
Yeah, you can find me all over the internet. It's Melinda Jackson PR. So it's Melinda Jackson with PR at the end, like public relations. That's melindajacksonpr.com, at Melinda Jackson PR, just anywhere. I'm all over the place. And I have a lot of different ways that I can work with people. So that might be a 1-hour consulting call where we figure out, okay, what are some of your talking points? Just like very low level stuff. I'll pull a media list for you. I'll help you write a pitch. Or is it a VIP day where we literally get in the weeds together and I teach you everything that you need to know so you can do it on your own? Or is it retainer based? And then, I just go guns blazing for you and you don't have to do anything but pay me and do interviews.
And Melinda, do you have a favorite quote, mantra, verse, poem, family motto?
Oh my God. Okay. I'm really going to make it really morbid right now, but it's just popped in my head. So everyone always gets this quote wrong. It's by C.S. Lewis. There are far better things ahead than any we leave behind. And I feel like we'll see that on Facebook a lot when like a divorced lady does a hike and she like posts a picture on the mountaintop and she's like, there are far better things ahead than any we leave behind. But C.S. Lewis actually wrote that in a letter to his friend who was dying. She ended up not dying and he died, but that's been coming up a lot for me lately. My grandpa just passed away at 98, which is very sad, but also like very iconic. And so even in this season, I'm telling myself like there are far better things ahead. Like it's a rough season for me and personally and in business because the economy is crap, but it's all going to get better.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like this is a huge transition year for so many. And kudos to the life that your grandfather and your grandmother that you mentioned earlier lived. So, well, thank you so much for this conversation. Let's have a revisit in a year or so when we find out where you are, what you're doing.
Hopefully I'm making a lot more money.
From your lips to God's ears, right?
Yep.
Well, this has been really fun. Thank you so much to everybody who's watching this episode or listening to it on your favorite platform. Thank you, Melinda Jackson. We'll have all of your links in the show notes. And this is a great reminder to everybody who's listening. If you're not getting on podcasts or starting your own, this is the sign that you should. My information also is in the show notes. And I am doing podcast production now for other people because of the success I've been able to find and the frameworks that I've built for my own podcast. So with that, everybody have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbrandamplified.com.